What's up, everybody? I am not sure what's true or false in this video. This is a gossip video, just like on a gossip blog website. So I take rumor and tea and gossip from online, from magazines, from books, from wherever I can find it, and I ball it up and I tell you guys a story. Now, let's get to the video.
Hi everybody, this is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another Old Hollywood Scandals video, and today this video is brought to you by Noom. Noom has taught me that it's not dieting that makes the real change, it's learning. And Noom helps me understand the reason behind me choosing all these bad foods for me. And this is a good thing because I've always wondered why me and this health over there can sit up there and start the same diet at the same time, but I sit up there and fail the diet, and she stay on it and lose all this weight. Well, it's a whole psychological aspect behind that. And of course, since this is a learning platform, there are courses for you to take. And my favorite one is Break the Behavior Chain, because goodness knows I got some behaviors that I gotta break. It sets a different path for every single one of us. It helps keep you on track, especially with the food and exercise trackers. And if you need a friend or a pep talk, honey, Noom has real human beings that will help you and you can talk to them. And I know y'all are on the same road trying to get healthy just like me. And this is why y'all need to click the link below and go and take your free Noom evaluation. It's quick, it's easy, and they will even help you create your custom plan. Now I need to give my member shout outs: Kim Armstrong, Misunderstood's Reality, Latonia or Latonia Powell, Sharon A. Life, B. Khan, Tay Holland, Joanne Andrews, FFHNS, and D Brown 0012. Thank you all so much for becoming members of Ashley Says So. If you have a red badge by your name and you are a paid member, please tell me in the comments if I have not called your name. But now, honey, it's time to get to the Mr. Beanpole, honey. Baby, the best male falsetto, probably best falsetto period, that you ever did here, honey. Mr. Eddie Kendricks. Let's get to it. Eddie James Kendrick was born on December the 17th, 1939 in Union Springs, Alabama. His mother's name was Lee Bell and his father's name was Johnny. Eddie also had a sister named Patricia and 3 brothers named Charles, Robert, and Clarence. Now, while Eddie was still young, his family moved to the Inslee side of Birmingham, Alabama, and Eddie started to attend the local high school. While there, he met another teen named Paul Williams. And there was this one day where both boys were in the school hallway, and it's thought that Eddie may have bumped into Paul mistakenly, or maybe the other way around, who knows. But as soon as they bumped into each other, they started arguing back and forth. Well, Paul went and grabbed a bucket of mop water and he threw it on Eddie. Baby, they say Paul found out that day that Eddie was not no punk, honey. Child, they say Eddie started throwing them hands on Paul. Eddie looked like he was on a Soul Glow commercial, girl. Head just dripping, but he still was swinging, baby. Now, neither of the boys knew it, but that moment in time would actually meld their lives together forever. Because after the fist fight, the guys kind of started talking, and they found out that they kind of had the same likes. You know what I mean? They like to do the same things, especially singing. And when they discovered this, oh, they just became like joined at the hip. When you saw Paul, you saw Eddie. They would spend all day and all night dreaming of becoming famous singers. Now, along with Eddie and Paul, there were 2 more guys that used to hang out with them. Their names were Kel Osborne and Willie Waller. And these 2 guys also had magnificent voices, and they also wanted to sing professionally. And after much planning and much talking, the guys came up with a group name called the Cavaliers. And they started to sing around Birmingham, not any big venues or anything like that, just parties. And since they only were like performing at parties or really small get-togethers, Willie felt like, this is not really working for me. So in 1957, he left the group, and I believe he ended up moving away. And with Willie gone, Paul, Eddie, and Kel kind of felt like, you know, he is right. This is not really getting us anywhere. We need to do something. We need to move up north in order to really make a name for ourselves, because ain't nothing shaking down here in Birmingham, Alabama. So in 1958, they actually left to go to Cleveland, Ohio. And when they got to Cleveland, they started singing around different people. They were looking for talent managers and some type of representation. And this man named Milton Jenkins heard the boys sing, and honey, he took no time snatching those boys up. And when Milton got the boys, he cleaned them up, gave them a new look, and he put them on the road to start performing. And the boys did sing at some pretty popular gigs, but no matter how hard they tried, fame just kept eluding them. So Milton decided that the boys needed a change. There had to be some changes that had to be made. So the first thing he wanted to do was take the boys to Detroit. Once he did that, he also let them know that the Cavaliers just wasn't hitting on it, honey. He wanted to change their name to the Prime. And I don't know if it was the move to Detroit or the name the Proms or both of them mixed together, but it did indeed turn these guys into hot stuff, honey. Child, they said they used to break it down at all the little sock hops and all the little parties. People love to hear the Proms sing. And of course, they never made it to superstardom, but they did kind of develop a cult following. And they got a little bit of fame around there, especially amongst the teens. So much so that soon, 4 little teen girls started following them around. And these girls' names were Diane Ross, Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard, and Betty McGlown. And honey, these girls had some serious crushes on those boys that belonged to the Proms, honey. Child, they was always checking them out. They thought they were so fine. But see, not only did they think the Proms looked good, they were also interested in how well they sang, because these 4 girls wanted to sing as well. And what better way for them to establish themselves or put themselves out there than to build off the already popular name of the Proms? So they asked if they could sing along with the guys, and Milton Jenkins actually thought this was a great idea, and so he called them the Promettes. The Proms and Promettes were very popular together. Again, they were at all of the sock hops, all of the big parties, all of the record hops. People would come out in full force to hear these teens sing. But they could still never get real traction to shoot them off into fame. So sooner or later, the Proms and the Promettes disbanded, and then the Proms in general just disbanded, with Kel Osborne actually moving to California, leaving Eddie and Paul. And actually, it didn't leave Eddie either, really. Eddie actually went back down to Birmingham to live. But Paul decided that his behind wasn't going nowhere. He said he was going to stay put because he said that it was his destiny to be a singer. And before you know it, he was ringing Eddie up, letting him know that he had met a guy named Otis Williams. And Otis Williams had this really fine group. And Paul was letting Eddie know that Otis Williams' group had disbanded. You know, some of the guys had left, and that Otis was looking for replacements. And it was possible that Paul and Eddie would be able to join Otis's group, but Otis wanted to hear the boys sing first. And of course, Otis is blown away because, see, Otis himself could not sing like Paul and Eddie, but he had an ear and knew these voices will make us famous. So he invited Paul and Eddie to become a part of his group, and this group name at this time was The Distance. And then, of course, The Distance turned into the Elgins because for some reason the guys wanted to run around singing, looking, and sounding like wristwatches or something. I don't know what was going on there. But anyways, they turned into the Elgins. And then from there, of course, they signed with Motown and they turned into the Temptations. You guys already know the history behind that. We know how big the Temptations got. And honey, now it's time to get to some of the scandalous, messy tea for Mr. Eddie Kendricks. Let's get to it. So this first rumor happened when Eddie was still young. This actually supposedly happened when Paul had called Eddie and told him to get his behind back up there because they needed to audition for Otis Williams. Well, I imagine Paul is on the phone like, Eddie, you gonna be able to come up here? And Eddie is like, yeah, man, yeah, I'm gonna make it. And Paul is like, Eddie, you got the money to, man, yeah, man, I got the money to get up there. Don't worry about it. Well, child, come to find out, Paul should have been real worried, honey, because Eddie ain't had no money. And so here go Eddie, smiling and cheesing all up in his uncle face and stuff, asking his uncle, can you teach me this? Can you teach me that? And one of them doggone things was probably, can you teach me how an income tax check work? Because, honey, you know they say that Eddie sat up there and stole their uncle income tax check, child. Stole that man money and ran back up to Detroit. Baby, I know that uncle was like, dang, 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 because I know I would have been. This next rumor is not really a rumor at all. It's just that supposedly Eddie being called Corn is true because he loved cornbread and he loved Southern food so much. So they did call him Corn. Now, honey, the tea finna get a little sweeter, honey, because listen at this, child. They say most folks think that Eddie actually messed with Diana Ross. Like she was the first person out of the Supremes that he messed with. Well, baby, the word on the streets is that Mary Wilson got there first, honey. Child, they say Mary Wilson and Eddie messed around a few times before they found out that, you know, their relationship would never grow into anything, and so they settled as just being friends. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit surprised by the Mary Wilson tea, but baby, I was a little more surprised because it's also claimed that Eddie possibly messed around with Martha Reeves. Now, there are a lot of rumors out here that says Eddie and Martha Reeves, like always, was like, oh, you know, that's my friend, that's my best friend, and all this kind of stuff, talking about they were real close. But child, some folks say that they was close up in their bedroom too, but they ain't want to confirm that. But then check this out. If that is true, if Eddie did mess with Martha Reeves, that could have been another reason that he had problems with Barry Gordy, because child, y'all know it's claimed that Barry Gordy possibly messed with Martha Reeves himself. Now, I don't know if he actually slept around with Martha Reeves, but I do know, and this right here was actually said by somebody at Motown, I do know that it was claimed that Barry Gordy did have a crush on Martha Reeves. He loved the way that she sang that song, Nowhere to Run To, Baby, Nowhere to Hide. He liked when she done that little shoulder move, and I'll put the link in the description. Every time she sang that song, she would do a little shoulder move. Baby, they said Barry Gordy be standing behind that curtain just sweating from the forehead, honey, sitting up there hot and heavy over Martha moving them doggone shoulders, honey. So listen, I don't know, but if Eddie messed around with Martha, and also if Barry messed around with Martha, that probably was another reason why they couldn't get along. We'll get into some of the other reasons a little later. Now, listen to this next bit of word on the street. This one also was a little bit surprising to me. But anyways, it is claimed that Eddie Kendricks was a tad bit jealous of Marvin Gaye. And maybe I shouldn't say jealous. Let me just explain the circumstances behind it. So, in 1971, Marvin Gaye releases the album What's Going On. This album goes up out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? It is critically acclaimed and everything like that. Well, it's said that Eddie Kendricks, who had gone solo by this time, tried to mimic Marvin's album and Marvin's success by releasing his own album in 1972, and this album was called People Hold On. And he was kind of trying to get the same message out that Marvin Gaye was getting. You know, it was one of those type of albums that was real heartfelt and things like that. Well, the people let go. You know what I'm saying? They did not want to hold on. The folks rather let go and jump down off the mountain cliff or something, you know, and because they just wasn't buying the album, you know. And it's claimed that the album was good. Some people have said it was really a hidden gem over in Motown. But like I said, child, the folks just did not want to hold on, and the album did not sell any records. And because of this, it is claimed that Eddie Kendricks was like, you know, a little bit jealous of Marvin Gaye. But I don't know if I should really call that jealous. It's just that he was just hating that his album did not do what Marvin Gaye's did, because he felt like he should have did well, especially with his natural, normal falsetto voice. Now let's get into those dark rumors surrounding Paul's death and the way it's said that Eddie reacted to Paul's death. Now, for those of you who do not know, Paul Williams of the Temptations was said to have committed suicide in August of 1973. And to let you guys know, I found out a little bit more information about that suicide since Paul Williams' video, okay? Because in Paul Williams' video, I said that he went to his girlfriend's house and they got into an argument. He left. Nobody knows what the argument was about. Well, since then, I've heard, or I found, that it's said that Paul Williams was upset because he had come home from doing something or had a long day, and when he got home, his girlfriend was having a party. There were so many people at his house, and so this supposedly upset him, and so immediately when he gets home, he turns around and leaves out, slamming the door, getting in his car, and goes driving down the street. Well, it's said that he takes his car and he parks, and then he sits in the car for a while, and he ends up putting a gun to his head and committing suicide. But this suicide has never really set well with people because it was really strange circumstances surrounding the way it happened. There were actually quite a few details, but the main ones was the fact that it is claimed that Paul used his right hand to shoot himself in the left side of his head. Like, nobody does that. And the second thing that made it kind of sketchy is what Paul had on. When they found him, it is said that he only had on like some lounge shorts or some swim shorts, swim trunks. Whatever he had, it was like underclothes. It was not anything that anybody would just wear on the streets. And that's really strange now that I found out that other detail about his girlfriend having the party. Because what? If Paul didn't even go in the house and change clothes, or Paul didn't do, like, how did he just like get mad at the party, shut the door and leave, and then what did he do? Strip all his clothes off in the car and throw it out the window and then go shoot himself in the head? Like, that really does not make sense now. But anyways, like I said, the main two things are him shooting himself with his right hand in the left side of his head, and him wearing lounge shorts or swim trunks or undergarment. So since that setup was so iffy, a lot of people felt like Paul Williams was murdered. And when it comes down to Eddie, I did not read anywhere that Eddie actually said, hey, I think Paul Williams Combs was murdered, but I did read somewhere that Eddie supposedly started to act very, very strange. That Eddie started to talk to people and he started to say that, it just don't seem right, man. It just, something's not right. How did Paul just get depressed like that? Because I just seen him not too long ago and he was laughing. He was having a good time. He said he had stopped drinking. Like everything was good. So how does he just go and commit suicide? And not only is it said that Eddie started to talk like this, but he also started to behave kind of strange, kind of out of character. And it was almost like he was behaving like he was paranoid. Like he stopped talking to a lot of people. It said that Eddie would just be places, and if you tried to ask where he was going or where he was at, he would not tell certain people. Like he made his circle really, really small and kind of just pulled away from everybody, always looking over his shoulder. But like I said, apparently he never said like, hey, I feel like Paul was murdered, but his actions let people know or made people feel that Eddie might have felt like Paul was murdered, and maybe even felt like he was next, I guess. So I don't know. Now let's get back to Eddie's love life for a minute. And honey, the word on the street is that the boy was a lady killer, honey. And baby, he liked them bad too. Don't get it twisted. And then on top of all that was pulling them, honey. They were attracted to his shyness. He was always seemed so unsure of himself and always seemed like he needed a hug. Eddie had this like really boyish charm, this real heavy politeness. Yeah, he sang in one of the biggest groups in the world, but he wasn't egotistical, The guy wasn't even really sure if he could even sing that well, I'm just not sure, mew, mew, mew. Had them women feeling all bad and they wanna, I'll make it better for you, Eddie. Oh, come give me a hug. Baby, as soon as his head got to laying on the bosoms, honey, he's sitting up there cracking a smile at his homeboys across the way. He knew what he was doing. And that right there in itself would be or is actually pretty funny. That's pretty funny. But what he did after he got these women seems like it was not so funny. Because per the word on the streets, Eddie Kendricks would turn into a totally different person. He was legit the type of person that would butter a woman up and then just drop her on her behind. And per the gossip, he would really hurt these women. As a matter of fact, I got 2 examples for you right now. The first one is Diana Ross. And honey, the folks on the street say Eddie got Diana Ross good, honey. Matter of fact, got her 2 times. So the first time is when they first met. You know what I'm saying? The whole Proms and Promettes thing were going on. Well, when that was going on, apparently after Eddie did what he did with Mary, I suppose, he and Diana started to talk and they got really close. They were basically dating. Well, the folks say that Diana fell completely in love. And yes, supposedly she was kind of talking to other people here and there, but I guess she was just using those people. But it was Eddie that she loved. So anyways, Eddie is playing this sweet guy role. He gets Diana wrapped around his finger, and then he kind of just drops her by the wayside, leaving Diana Ross heartbroken. So even though he and Diana break it off, they do remain friends. They're very cordial with each other, still talk to each other, but supposedly they are not messing around. Well, a few years later, when they are both at Motown, Eddie supposedly comes back around, and Diana at first is said to have not wanted to rekindle their relationship because he hurt her. But Eddie is so doggone good with his words, the boy a Mac Daddy, that she ends up falling back in line with him. So they start to mess around and talk again. And this time it's claimed that Eddie was laying even heavier talk on Diana. You know what I'm saying? She really thought that very soon she would be his girlfriend and not behind closed doors type girlfriend. Well, after some time passes and they don't end up taking it to that next level, Diana starts to talk to other guys as well as Barry Gordy. In fact, her relationship with Barry Gordy ends up intensifying. But she does not let Eddie go. Eddie is the one that she loves. Like I said, throughout all this, I don't care everybody she messed around with, it is claimed that Eddie was the one Diana loved. And Eddie stayed in her ear. Per the gossip, he was telling Diana Ross what she wanted to hear. Y'all know those men that are real smooth with their words. Even though you've so-called moved on or talking to somebody else, they still can kind of talk those words to you and be like, hey, I know supposedly you with your new man. You know what I'm saying? So he's telling Diana, I know you with Barry, but you know who you belong to. You know what I'm saying? You know who your real man is. And I'm telling you, just give me some time. It's going to be me and you, Diane. Oh, and this is another piece of gossip that I want to make clear that I did not know for the Diana Ross video, okay? I just found this out when I was researching for Eddie. So per the story, like I was saying, Eddie is putting some serious game on Diana Ross, where in the meantime of him doing this, of him all in Diana Ross's ear, he ends up marrying a woman named Patricia. Like, yeah, out of nowhere for Diana Ross. Hits her like a ton of brick. I mean, this guy has been making her all of these promises about what they were supposed to be. And even if she did know about Pat, I'm sure that Eddie had been telling her, that's just another girl I'm talking to. It ain't that serious with me and Pat. Look at you and Barry. And then what must have been the worst thing of all for Diana Ross is the fact that she had let go of him the first time. He broke her heart the first time, and she had worked and built herself to get over him, and this man still ended up talking his way back into her life and back into her draw. So Diana is completely hurt. So yes, she does. It said go to him and his wife's house. Yes, she does go driving into his driveway and getting out the car and screaming and hollering, Eddie, you get your behind down here. You married? You married? And then I done found out it's Pat, big weeble wobble head. You sat up there and said you wasn't serious with her, but now you married with her? Yes, Diana was acting a complete fool, going out there with tears all down her face, hair all out of place, just yelling and screaming and trying to fight Eddie and Pat probably. And then when she couldn't get him, she ended up throwing a brick through their front window. And really, this makes more sense to me because I had always heard this rumor of her doing this, but I didn't really understand the context of it. And it's like, dang, like, was Eddie that good and bad that Diana just goes and snaps like this? But no, per the gossip, Eddie had been telling her something totally different and then married this Pat woman without telling her anything. So yes, Eddie Kendricks was supposedly very much a player. And yes, he did do things like butter women up to drop them on their behinds. And that's just the first example. Let's get to the second one. And this is the way the gossip on the street says that he treated his daughter Aika's mom. And y'all, for the life of me, it was so hard to find this woman's name, and I'm still not sure this woman's name, but I think Aika's mother's name is Mary. If y'all know that woman's name, can y'all put it in the comments? But anyways, I really think it's Mary because that's what I found. I don't know how legit it is. I'm going to call her Mary though. So when it comes to Mary, it is said that when she and Eddie first met, he did the same thing he always did. You know what I'm saying? He played that innocent little role. He played it where he was the submissive type. That's what it was. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's almost like Eddie downplayed himself. Like he wanted to get a dominant woman by acting like he wasn't dominant. And then when he got that dominant woman into his life and she was head over heels for him, he would do little things to break her down. And to be honest, if that gossip is true, it's almost like there was a resentment there. And I say this because this is supposedly what he did to Aika's mother, Mary. It's claimed that when she fell in love with him, he just started to really treat her any kind of way. He started to cheat on her. He started to react very nonchalantly to her, kind of like she just didn't matter anymore. Like he just made her feel like a queen probably about 3 weeks ago, all in love with her. But now, it don't really matter if y'all spend time together, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of cooled on her or nonchalant with her. And that's like a pattern, like he did Diana. And then on top of that, he would do things to kind of irk Mary. Just like when she got pregnant with Aika. After Aika was born, Eddie would not sign the birth certificate. She wanted her daughter to be legitimate. She wanted her daughter to be a Kendricks with her father's name on the birth certificate. And because she wanted this so much, it's just like Eddie just would not give this to her. And so again, something done out of spite. And so supposedly because Eddie was like this towards Mary, Mary kind of became bitter and she started doing things to spite him. So before long, they were kind of going back and forth with things that they would do. And so I'm guessing because she was so bitter at this man who just seemed like he only wanted to come into her life just to wreak havoc when she was just minding her own business, it seemed like Mary just became more and more bitter. And so then she really started to do things to really try to get back at Eddie, especially what she did when Eddie came down to David Ruffin's funeral. And that was when Eddie was at David's funeral doing all this singing and shouting, I miss you, David, and all that mess in the mic. And then once the funeral was over, he was a pallbearer walking out all clean, you know what I'm saying, carrying the casket, and baby, his wrist got cold, honey. Child, he probably thought David Ruffin ghost had touched him on his wrist. But honey, when Eddie looked down, it was a handcuff, baby. Them cops had came and arrested him, honey. It's claimed that Mary sent the cops to David Ruffin's funeral to arrest Eddie Kendricks for missed child support payments. Embarrassed that man in front of everybody, honey. Then he tried to have on that hat too. Baby, him and that hat was sitting up in jail. Now, to add some fairness into this, it is said that the reason that Mary sent the cops to David's funeral is because she had tried to locate Eddie and he would never give her his address. You know what I mean? And he would always move around, so she never did have a good address for him. And so she knew he was going to be at the funeral. That's why she sent the cops there. Now, when it came down to Eddie being arrested at the funeral, surprisingly, he did not have to stay in jail that long because Barry Gordy posted his bail and bailed him out. And then let's touch on their relationship a little bit. Now, it is well known that Eddie said that he felt like Barry never liked him. You know what I'm saying? He just felt like Barry just didn't like him. And a lot of people feel like that was over Diana Ross. And maybe it was. Well, most likely, of course, that had something to do with it, and possibly Martha Reeves, like we already said. But on top of that, it said the real reason, the main reason that Barry Gordy did not like Eddie Kendricks is because Eddie Kendricks would not just go along just to get along. You know what I mean? He would not just do everything that Barry Gordy suggested or that Barry Gordy said. He always had to backtalk. He always had an attitude about something. It was always something where he would always want to go a different direction than what Barry Gordy said. And so Barry could not stand this. And it's claimed that when Eddie left away from the Temptations, Barry told him, "I can make you big, Eddie. I can make you huge, just like Diana Ross. All you have to do is listen to me, man. You won't listen to nobody." And said that Eddie told him, "Well, hey, I'm not Diana, so it is what it is." Now let's touch on Eddie's wife, Patricia. It's claimed that they got married in 1965 and they ended up divorcing in 1975, but not before they had a son, Paris. And I'm supposing their marriage was happy at first, but Eddie had started to cheat, and from the looks of the unsung, or the way that I remember the unsung, it seems like Patricia was sort of okay with him cheating. And y'all can go try to find unsung on YouTube and tell me if I'm wrong, but tell me if when Patricia is talking about Eddie that she does not say, you know, well, if he just cheated and went with other women, that was okay, but Eddie needed something on top of that. Eddie was looking for something else. I may be wrong, but I remember in my mind her saying something similar to that, so that always made me feel like she was possibly okay with Eddie cheating, or maybe not even okay with it. Maybe she just figured that that was going to come along with the territory. You know what I'm saying? Her husband was famous. He was a temptation, so she felt like other women were going to go along with the territory, and maybe she wasn't okay with it, but I do remember that quote sticking out. But see, y'all do y'all little detective work and see if y'all can find unsung and tell me if that woman don't say something similar like that. But anyways, I just remember that, and that kind of just stuck out to me. So I don't know if that really would pass as gossip or tea. That's just something that's coming from me. That's something that I remember. Now here is a little bit of tea, because gossip says that after that divorce, Pat practically got everything and Eddie was kind of left with nothing. And it said that one time when Eddie, David, and Dennis, when they were like touring together in like the late 80s, early 90s, they were invited to Aretha Franklin's house. And Eddie, on the way over to Aretha Franklin's house, had got upset or got kind of sad because he supposedly had lived in that same neighborhood as Aretha Franklin. He had lost his home. It said that he lost it to Pat. And in that instant, he was just kind of feeling like he didn't really achieve much, or he didn't really have much to call his own. And let me tell you some more tea about them going to Aretha, Sonny, because the tea says that the whole reason that they were going to Aretha's in the first place is that Aretha wanted that old thing back with Dennis, honey. And for you guys who did not know, yes, it is said that Aretha Franklin used to mess around with Dennis Edwards, but they were not messing around at this time. But like I said, Aretha supposedly saw Dennis and invited all three guys back to her house because she wanted that old thing back. And let me tell you how I know she wanted that old thing back, because baby, it's claimed that when they walked in, Aretha was already on Dennis, honey, and she wanted Dennis to sing to her, and she also wanted to mess around with him. And so Dennis told Aretha, "No, Aretha, I'm not about to mess with you. Your husband is here. What are you thinking?" And Chai said Aretha told him, "Baby, I make the money. This is my house. He can do what I say or he can get out. And tonight I say that you gonna get a slice of this pie." Cha. So they say that night that she and Dennis ended up in a room together, but then next morning Dennis came out telling everybody, I didn't mess with her because that's too trifling. I'm not finna do that. But Cha say the whole time his tops and bottoms was smelling like Aretha perfume, baby. Let's move on. And just to touch on another woman who was said to be a part of Eddie's life was a woman named Darlene Woods, and she fathered his youngest child, a son named Paul. And honey, that Darlene tea might not have been spicy, but this next Darlene tea is extra spicy, honey, because this is concerning Miss Darlene Love. Listen at this. Baby, the folks say that at one point Darlene Love was working as a session singer, and I guess she was working with Eddie Kendricks or the Temptations or something like that, but she was supposedly working with him in that vicinity. Eddie was doing the same thing that he did to all the women, playing that sweet, innocent guy role, you know, and the thing is, Eddie was confident in himself, honey. He just knew his plan was gonna work. After that day is over with, Darlene Love goes back to her hotel room. Baby, when she gets in that doggone room, honey, Eddie Kendricks is on the bed laying naked. Spread eagle, baby, just knowing he finna get some. But child, listen at this. Eddie got it wrong, honey, because Darlene was like, sir, you sitting up there doing too much. Thank you for the Bucky naked presentation, but baby, I don't want none of that. Which she did not say that, I'm saying that. It's actually said that she started screaming and took off running. So much so that it scared Eddie that he grabbed up his clothes and was running down the hallway booty naked trying to get to his room. So, yeah, but doing too much, sir. Child, then let's get to the messiest lover of all, honey, or the messiest tea about a lover. And y'all heard this in the David Ruffin video, but yes, there was some tea put out, honey, that claims that it was possible that Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin had a sexual relationship. Listen, they say the tea was spilled by Tony Turner in his books, but people say that Tony Turner's books be faker than Kim Kardashian's booster. You know, so I don't know if it's true or false, but it is claimed that Tony Turner kind of put out this rumor that David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks had a sexual relationship. Now, to get back to Eddie's career side of things, when these Temptations started to go in a more funkadelic type way and started doing all these funk songs, that Eddie wasn't really feeling that. You know, he was feeling the ballads that they used to do, and he just, like, the creative changes they were making, he just was not feeling it. And he also did not like the way they had done Paul. He did not like the way they had done David Ruffin. So per the word on the street, Otis Williams had done something or said something that set Eddie Kendricks off. And so Eddie Kendricks went looking for Otis Williams and went and found his hotel door and was just like, pop, 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 just busting on the door or whatever. And baby, they say Otis was inside, but Otis didn't want to open the door. Now, some stories say that Otis did not want to open the door because he felt like, you know, what is this fighting going to achieve? But other stories say that Otis didn't want to open the door because, baby, you know Otis was scared. But whatever the case, whatever the truth, it was quite clear that Eddie was ready to fight Otis Williams. And so that was supposedly the last episode between Eddie and Otis. And not only Eddie and Otis, just Eddie and the Temptations, period. He ended up leaving the group soon after that episode. And that happened in the year of 1971. After Eddie left the Temptations, he did end up going solo, and he had a few hits like Keep On Truckin', Boogie Down, and I think another song called Can I. But these hits came around in the early 70s, and by the time the late 70s, early 80s came around, Eddie's solo career was over. In the early to mid 80s, the Temptations ended up all coming back together for a reunion tour, but this tour only lasted for a little while before things went haywire. It was drugs, it was money, it was a lot of stuff that was messed up on the tour, so that just didn't last long. And then the group Hall & Oates took a big interest in the Temptations, particularly David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks. So Eddie and David did a live at the Apollo concert with Hall & Oates, and that was pretty successful. Then after that, again, he had a dry period, and then in the late 80s, early 90s, he hooked up with David Ruffin and Dennis Edwards, and they got their group together and they started touring. But unfortunately, this did not last long because
David Ruffin ended up overdosing, and on top of that,
Eddie Kendricks had lung cancer. Now, per the word on the streets, Eddie found out he had lung cancer way back in 1982 when the Temptations were doing their reunion tour. He could not hit those high notes as easily as he used to, and so he felt like something was wrong, and that is when they discovered he had a spot on his lung, which, like I said, turned out to be lung cancer. And when Eddie was asked why he didn't start chemotherapy or why he didn't start any type of treatment to treat the cancer, he supposedly said he did not want to lose his head hair, and he also did not want to lose his voice more than it already was. He ended up passing away on October the 8th, 1992. And there is a video on YouTube of his very last performance, and Eddie was still very handsome, still very smooth, but my goodness, y'all, he was very, very small. He had gotten very thin, and you can pretty much tell that he was sick, and he also would get out of breath. I'll put that link in the description, but it was just kind of sad to see. Oh, and let me add this right here, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, and I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not lying. Now, I am very glad that Eddie Kendricks has a monument down in Alabama. I'm happy that he has his statue, but baby, who is that? Who on that doggone statue? I mean, it's just like, God, I shouldn't say this, probably mean, but it don't look like him. I'm going to just be honest. I'm not going to go in on the artist. I was going to say some little cruel stuff, but I'm not going to do that. Positivity, Ashley. But it really does not look like him. You know what I'm saying? But at least he has one, so let's look on the bright side for that. And if I am not mistaken, he is the only Temptation to have a monument or a statue dedicated to him. So thank you guys so much for joining me for the Old Hollywood Scandalous Tale of Mr. Eddie Kendricks. No, it was not that scandalous. It was not that juicy, but that is a good thing, guys. Everybody don't gotta be super wild and crazy, okay? But I love you guys so much. I am working on the next video and we'll get it out soon. Bye.